Today's tasks have been making sure that the new canes, these ones are transplanted from suckers which grew along the old border, are put into a new home which is along this fence which I've strengthened. Basically, as you can see, it's got guy ropes, 3 layers of rubble netting and chicken wire on top of what the neighbours already put, which was made of pallets that she's painted, giving us both privacy and windbreak. And the idea is that these canes get the full sun, and the sun is to my right, so basically they get plenty of sunshine. This section here is blackberries, and then the next section, which is still rough at the moment, will be given over to filberts and Kentish cob, i.e. traditional UK nuts. As you can see from this plum blossom, the structure in the flower that sticks up the most is the female part, and the sticky top of it's called the stigma, and there's a tube called a style, and then it goes down to the ovary, and pollen has to land on that. So the idea is to brush the pollen off the stalks, which have the yellowed tips on them, okay, using your artist's watercolour paintbrush, and go across the female part, and you've got to use your eye carefully to brush across that female part, and then the pollen grain will travel down the tube and into the ovary, and that's when fertilisation takes place. Been busy on the raspberry canes, using some bamboo, and I've also used, well, something a bit stronger than that. It's from the pound shop, and it's basically from washing lines, twine. And here along here you can see I've put some large, these are plastic coated metal stakes along the line of the raspberries. And the idea is to be able to walk along here and pick them more easily without having your eye poked by them. 3 lines of the braided string, and basically a lot at various key points. Also, I've used this twist tie, as you can see, to hold up the canes at the highest point, and the idea is to sort of weave the canes in. I've seen this at a National Trust property near me, so I thought it was a good idea, and also it makes it easier to weed, and also to along this line, which is just inside where the main line of raspberries are younger canes. Some of these don't need staking, it's the younger ones, but the ones from last season, which will get some crop, I've basically put smaller bamboo stakes and tied them up with this twine, and as you can see it's a bit stronger than using ordinary jute, and the idea is of course just to train them along, and it keeps them a bit more stable in the wind. And the rubble netting at the front there does the same thing, it breaks up the wind. It doesn't tend to come down in strong wind, so that's a good thing about rubble netting. I'd recommend it for using on allotments. Well, the rhubarb's gone crazy this year, just in the last few days. I've added my magnesium sulfate, okay, and also some gypsum, so basically that's helped it, and the leaves aren't yellow anymore. You should see that it's looking a lot more healthy now, so you should be able to take some rhubarb. You only need to take a couple of stalks, you don't want to take too much basically. And as you can see, I've taken a few stalks of rhubarb. Not many, you only need to take 1 or 2 per plant at this stage, and only off mature rhubarb plants. Rhubarb stalks I've selected are at least 12 inches long, and the thickest on the rhubarb plants, and the rhubarb mine are over 3 years old. Okay, and you're only taking 1 off each plant at this stage. My gauge tree has been sprayed a lot with bicarb, that wards off the ants. I've also put pieces of garlic where the trunk is split. It's a common problem with them. The idea is, however, to solve that, you can either make them 2D on espaliers, or as I've done, really open it up and truncate and make sure there's no massive bunching, which tends to bring pests, little flies, and let the air in. Don't know whether this fruit will set, but there is some blossom on, a lot less than I've ever had before, but I'm happy about that because it all sort of died before. These trusses here on this soft fruit, which is a red currant. These are where you're going to get your fruit, so these will have to be pollinated, and the idea is you want pollinators to go in and out easily so they can get them pollinated. I had a bit of problem with rust on these. I removed some of them and you can see there's a little bit of remnant of rust there. You don't want that. That can infect fruit trees, so that needs removing or spraying with bicarb. I'll spray this with bicarb today. For those of you who want to grow the British hazelnuts, this is what I'd recommend. You'll need to have one of these, which is a filbert. You can buy these online, bare root plant, etc. Seen plenty for sale. Or get hold of them from a friend if you have. This is the Kentish cob, and in order for this to be pollinated, you really best have another variety like the filbert, this one here, which is a lot younger, and that they will cross-pollinate by wind. Always a good idea to spray your red currants. They're more woody than other soft fruits, and it tends to split. I use bicarbonate in water. 1 teaspoon would do in about 200 mils. Well, or one of these old spray containers, you know, about a teaspoon, and add a couple of squirts of detergent to that, and away you go. Keep doing it, and that will kill mould, rust as it's sometimes known. You need to keep going though, because any sign on the leaves as well, remove them affected leaves. So I'm stood next to a damson which was grown from seed. This is from a plant. Well, the parent plant was one that was growing in a village, and it was throwing damsons all over the pavement. Basically, people were stamping on them. Found it in autumn actually, and I thought the stones wouldn't work because the frost had hit them. I collected a few up off the pavement, split the stones, put them in the freezer actually. Apparently that helped, and I germinated about 6 damson trees from just one parent plant that was spilling damsons all over the pavement. Might be ancient actually, because it was not far from a churchyard, but there you go. So trying to grow from seed, it does work with fruit trees if you're patient. This is now, I would say, in its 4th year, well, from planting, so call it 5 years old from being grown from seed, and I'd say it's about 4.5, 5 feet high. In the hottest spot on this plot, got my first strawberry flowers. So April, quite early for me here in the this part of the UK in the Midlands. The rest of the strawberries, I shall have to add some bloodfish and bone around the strawberry beds. I've already dug the runners up for propagation. This particular bed is very prone to flooding, and basically is like liquid clay. However, I found soft fruit tolerates it well, like a blackcurrant. Less so gooseberries, but blackcurrant doesn't seem to mind this tough clay soil. It thrives. The fruit trees are okay as well. There's a pear there, and there's a plum at the end, and they've survived the rigours. Strawberry, it was a strawberry bed last year, but they don't look happy here now, so I might lift what I've got here and sort it out. But everybody's got a problem area. At the back of this is a huge compost heap there, so there you go. It's all doing well, rotting away. Here we have a loganberry which is planted up against aluminium sheeting that originally came from a shed. I've put the black lining on because that absorbs radiation, keeps it nice and hot and warm, because that's what the berry's like. It's got some bloodfish and bone around it. Keep it weeded. And these are the canes from last year, because with this particular soft fruit you don't prune it down to the ground, you let some of the long canes go, because that's where you're going to get your fruit on your 2nd year. So got to be careful with your soft fruit, that you make sure you read up about how each one fruits. This year just planted my Bunyard's exhibition broad beans, about 4 inches apart, 2 inches deep in rows. I've put them about 6 inches apart actually, the rows, and I've got as many as I can in on this plot. It catches the full sun here, and I've used canes with plenty of string around them because the last lot we had were really blown to bits, so I can actually put more string up and twine it in between them to keep them upright, because we do get lots of storms up here. Two of my sour plum trees are in full blossom. I won't be using the watercolour paintbrush on these ones just yet. I'll give them a chance because the pollen's not quite ready. And then obviously if the weather's a bit overcast, I come down and the flowers are still on, I can't see the bumblebees, etc., then I'll go around with the paintbrush. But I'll use another plum variety to pollinate them because they're both SARs, these ones. Well, that's goodbye for me this evening on this beautiful April evening, and hope you enjoy your gardening. Wonder if they did find anything interesting in the fields there when they were doing their little dig. There's the beautiful Trent Hills at the background. A lot of history around here on this river. Interesting spot.